Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the 2024 Chennai Grandmasters. Now, this tournament has already ended a few days ago, and unexpectedly, it is won by Aravindh Chithambaram. Now, he is from India, and actually, compared to other Indian players like Arjun Erigaisi, Gukesh, Pragnananda, Beat It, like these kinds of players, he is not as famous as they are, and not as strong as they are. Some of you guys might not even have heard of him before. He is rated 2700, and in this whole tournament, he is not the favorite player to win the championship. Most of the people, they suggest that it is Arjun who is going to win, and some say that it is Levon Aronian who is going to win, and some say it is Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. He is not the favorite in this whole tournament. But unexpectedly, he emerged out of all of the players and won. So let's see how he made this success. And first of all, let's start by looking at this article about him. Now, Grandmaster Aravindh Chithambaram emerged as the winner of the 2024 Chennai Grandmasters after tying for first place with Grandmasters Levon Aronian and Arjun Erigaisi, and defeating Aronian in the final of the tiebreak with a 1.5 versus 0.5 score. The format of the three-player tiebreak had Aronian and Arjun play each other first, with Aronian progressing by holding with the black pieces in the Armageddon game after the Blitz tiebreaker ended in a 1 versus 1 tie. Now, while Aravindh scored over Grandmaster Parha Maksudlu, Arjun had an exciting draw with Grandmaster Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and Aronian had an early draw with Grandmaster Amitabh. Now the rest of this whole paragraph is about the challengers section, which is not what we're focusing on today. Let's skip that part and go to this final standings, the Masters section. And you see that the final standings, right here we have Aravindh Chithambaram and Levon Aronian, as well as Arjun Erigaisi, all 4.5 points. So they need to go to the tiebreak part. And this means that Levon Aronian will first of all play against Arjun Erigaisi, which they did in this part. And actually, Aravindh was the lucky one because he didn't need to play in the first round. And then, Levon beat Arjun, even though you might say, wait a second, they have the same point. They are all 1.5 points. But actually, in the Armageddon game, when you're playing as black, you only need to hold the draw. And the draw in the Armageddon game counts as a win for the black pieces. And Levon successfully held the draw, and then went into the finals facing Aravindh Chithambaram, and in that section, or in that part, Aravindh actually won 2 versus 0. He won all the 2 games. Very outstanding score. And yeah, the rest, so the day started unexpectedly as Aronian allowed a repetition of moves and sailed for a draw in just 15 moves and under 25 minutes of play. This looked surprising from the tournament point of view, as it was expected of Aronian to fight for the first place by pushing hard in the last round, especially as he had white pieces. What was his thought process? Appearing on the live commentary after the game, the jovial Aronian explained in his typical way, the last round is where the mathematics starts and blah blah blah, saying many things. Well, actually, this is already not the main things that we'll be focusing on today. But right now, let's go into the game where actually Aravindh just won. And this gave him this is not the game that he was facing against Levon Aronian, but this was the game that he was playing against Arjun Erigaisi. Now, if you guys have heard of this recent news, is that Arjun Erigaisi has already reached like reach the 28, like the legendary 2800 rating, and this is actually just really outstanding. And for Aravindh to face against a 2800 player, it's not an easy job, of course. Like sometimes it's even really hard for you to make a draw against 2800s. But let's see how he um under some like a bit of pressure, let's see how he immediately won this game. All right, in this game, Aravindh was white and Arjun is black. He started with d4, knight f6, and bishop g5. Now, bishop g5 is actually a kind of dubious option in the opening for the queen's pawn. Actually, what white, like c4 ideas, knight c3 ideas are all possible. Just go knight f3 or go for the London with bishop f4. Bishop g5 is of course possible, but in high-level chess, it is not that like common to see this bishop g5 move. But I think this is in Aravindh's home preparation, so I guess you just want to kind of like confuse his opponent, and he played bishop g5. Or like he could also be like, he can also like always play bishop g5. I'm actually not sure. Maybe this is one of his main repertoires as white. But this is just a kind of uncommon option for white in the queen's pawn opening. d5 was played. You see, Arjun is actually spending some time thinking here. You see, he spent about 1 minute thinking about this d5 move, which means that bishop g5 might have made him like go out of his preparation or something. But anyways, d5 and e3, g6 was played, and after knight d2, bishop g7, knight gf3, and after short castle, bishop e2, and c5. No, actually, I think in this position here, white is playing a very solid position, as you can see. Here, Aravindh is actually just placing all of the pieces in front, in the center, in front of the king. Like everything is really solid. He is not going for any breakthroughs in the center with c4 ideas. This means that, of course, when you're facing a 2800, or when you're facing a player who is definitely stronger than you are, you cannot like go to push too hard, push too hard for a win. Sometimes you just play really solid. If the game ends in a draw, like at least you don't lose anything. Like at least a draw is good for you. c5 and c3 was played, very logical, like supporting the d4 pawn, and after b6, you see that Arjun is going to fianchetto all of his bishops, and short castle, bishop b7, and b4. Now, b4 is actually a really interesting option here, because most of the times here, at least for white, the most common options are just to develop the pieces, go rook e1 for example, h3, just do something that is not causing any trouble here. But Aravindh says that, okay, I'm not going to play that solid anymore, but I'm going to open up the position. And here I'm going to start by opening up the queen side. And as you can see, he actually hasn't used any of his time. You can just look at his clock. He played b4, well, actually thinking for about 5 minutes. b4. At least I think right now both sides are out of their home preparation, and now the rest of the game they are into their pure calculation and yeah, competing with no opening preps anymore. b4 and knight d7 was played. Now you see Arjun has also spent 3 minutes thinking on this move, which means that b4 is kind of like an unexpected move by Aravindh, because you're playing just not that solid and you're trying to create counterplay immediately in the opening facing a 2800, and that's not something that we see a lot. Of course, sometimes you just it just depends on the position. You just calculate the position and your opponent, it doesn't matter who your opponent is, the rating or anything, but still, at least you know that your opponent is not an easy player to play against, and you shouldn't be just pushing pawns around or playing those really aggressive moves. But of course, b4, I think it is well calculated by Aravindh, so not a big deal actually. Knight d7, and here he played b takes c5, opening up the b file, and getting the queen to the b file. Queen b3 attacking the bishop on b7, as well as putting some pressure on the d5 pawn, even preparing for some c4 ideas in the future. At least right now you see that white is definitely gonna start playing on the queen side more. Queen b3 was played and queen c8. Now a4, very logical, like pushing a5, a6 to gain more space on the queen side. a4 and h6 was played. Now you can also just go, for example, like c4 here for black, which is also fine to kick the queen, and probably the best place for the queen to go to is to retreat back to c2, and then probably like a5 to block everything on the queen side. And yeah, for black, the main idea is to go e5 to open up in the center, because on the queen side, basically, there's nothing that black can do much. And yeah, basically, black is going to be playing on the king side, and white is going to be playing on the queen side. But nonetheless, in the game, after a4, h6 was played, attacking the bishop, which is also logical. And here, actually, Aravindh actually played this really interesting move. Like, it's one of the best moves, actually, but he played rook a b1 instead of just retreating the bishop. Because the best move, a move that is slightly better than rook a b1, the best move in this position is actually to go bishop h4. Because now you're, like, if g5 happens, you'll just get the bishop to g3 now, or, like, also, you can also still go rook a b1, because now if black takes on h4, you just take, and you kind of damage black's pawn structure on the king side. That is the main point. But also just going rook a b1 immediately and allowing black to take on g5 is also fine. And of course, if black takes on g5 right now, there's queen b7, unfortunately for black. And probably like after knight b6, queen e7, a lot of trades will happen. It's kind of complicated, and with precise play, I think later on white will be slightly better. Alright, let's go back to see the actual game. Bishop c6 was played, very logical. And bishop f4. Okay, now since you're not attacking black's bishop anymore, it's time for white to retreat the bishop back as well. And here g5 was played, which is also really logical. And after bishop b5, well, actually bishop b5 is a small inaccuracy. Bishop g3 is definitely better. Probably, I think Aravindh is afraid of knight h5. But now you can actually just here, with accurate play, find this queen a3 move and like attack the c5 pawn. And after knight g3, you take h6 g3. But now black needs to choose, basically, either to go like c takes d4 or just leave the pawn there and go for something like rook d8. But of course now white will just take on c5. White is up a pawn, but black does have some compensation for the lost pawn, and he'll start pushing in the center with e5. It's really complicated, so I'm not sure if both sides have calculated that position. But in the game, bishop e5 was played, like starting to trade off some minor pieces off the board, but now giving black the chance to go c4 to attack the queen. And after queen a3, attacking the e7 pawn, there is now actually, Arjun here didn't play the best reply, which is to go g4 here. And after g4, it's actually really hard for white to choose where to go for the knight. h4 or knight e1. Like, knight h4 or knight e1, basically, are the two main options here. And knight e1 turns out to be slightly better, but after knight takes c5, d takes c5, and knight, for example, d7, this e5 pawn may be under a little bit of pressure. I mean, there is bishop g4, of course, but after bishop e5, reaching this position, it's actually really messy, because on the king side, black's king is kind of opened, and like queen e7 can happen probably, but after bishop c3, taking all the pawns, this is just a position that is way too complicated, and probably in human eyes, anything can happen here. And yeah, that's why in the game this position is not reached, and Arjun didn't play g4 but instead played rook e8, which is actually a slight mistake. Again, the best move is for him to go g4 with accurate calculation, of course, that is. And after rook e8 in the game, I mean, even though this is a mistake, but still the position is kind of equalized. h3 was played, a very well response, because you're like white is now like defending or like preventing g4 from happening. After h3, bishop f8 was played, which is again another mistake. 2 mistakes in a row for Arjun. Now what he should have played is actually to go knight e5 to trade everything off, and after, of course, you take with a knight, and after knight e5, black will just go for something like queen c7, open up this file, and like prepare to go rook f8 to gain control of the b file. Also in the future, some queen a5 ideas to attack the a4 pawn as well. In the game, however, bishop f8 was played. Probably his idea is, like to someday go e6 and attack the queen on e3, but this is like not the most effective plan in this position. Queen a2 was played, very logical, getting away from this diagonal, and after g4. Now, actually, g4 is a little bit too aggressive, because in the game, h takes g4, knight takes g4, bishop g3, bishop g7, and after a few normal moves here, knight h2, white already has a huge, not a huge, but already +1 advantage here in this position. And after knight h2 here, knight h2, trading the knights off, and e5 was played. Okay, maybe still in human eyes this position looks not that bad for black, but as you dig deeper, you see that black's king is now open up on the king side, and later on, just after a few maneuvers of the pieces, white will be getting much more active pieces. Like maybe now you see that the knights, the bishop are not that active, but after a few moves, everything will change. And you see after knight f3, rook e6, rook b d1. Okay, this is actually a slight mistake. I mean, for white, just go for the logical plan, knight d4, put this knight on this excellent outpost on d4, attack the rook, attack the bishop. It's just undefeatable knight on d4. Maybe black does have some options, like chances to go rook g6 and then go knight e6 to trade the knights off, but now there's just bishop h5. At least right now for black, there's no time to go knight e6 because the rook is right now being kicked all over the board. But in the game, however, rook b d1 was played. I guess Aravind's idea is to attack the d5 pawn or even go rook d4 to swing the rook to the king side, but this is actually just too slow. Now, in the game, actually, Arjun went for the wrong reply, actually, with bishop b7, which is another mistake, follow-up. And bishop b7, basically, this move is just kind of unnecessary with no reason. It's not that reasonable. Okay, maybe black's idea is to open up this whole 6th rank for the rook to swing to the queen side and then swing to the king side freely. But bishop b7, the main problem is that it blockades this b file for the rook to get into the position, and it is not a good thing. Bishop b7, and after knight d4, okay, missing the opportunity. The opportunity is actually, you have already gone for rook b d1. Why not follow your plan with rook d4? And after rook d4, threatening to go rook g7, probably here, not rook g7, but rook g4, and probably here, let's say queen c7, black just waits. And here you can actually just go bishop d1, get the bishop to this side of the board, and everything is under white's control. But in the game, knight d4 was played. You see that both sides, they are with no direction, playing these moves with no direction at all. Like when you play a move and your idea is to go for this, but on the next move you just go for the other plan. Rook g6 was played, a mistake, but here there are just too many options for black's rook to go to. f6, g6, d6, b6, a6, and if you go rook f6, which is actually a slightly better move than rook g6, there's now something like queen b2 or queen d2, like to swing the queens, and then probably later on rook b1, something like this. But anyways, this is not a big deal. After rook g6, bishop h5, kicking the rook, and after rook g5, queen e2. Finally, progress is being made. Finally, white's pieces are getting to the king side. Queen d7, f4, and rook g7, queen c2, knight e6. Now, this is actually a mistake because the follow-up shows you why knight e6 is a mistake. Now, probably here black's main option is just to wait with probably bishop c8 or queen c7, just to wait. The rook on a8 basically cannot help because it cannot get to the king side basically. And I think 96 idea is for Arjun is actually just to get the rook to the king side, but he misses the follow-up idea for white. First of all, Aravindh played knight f5, great follow-up, rook h7, e4, excellent move, knight takes f4, and now a brilliant move is played by Aravindh here. And this move ends it all. Basically. The move is actually here for you to go e takes d5. A brilliant move. The main point is that if you take on h5 here, it may seem at first sight that you're winning the bishop, but there's now rook e7, the only move, the best follow-up, of course, and the queen has to make a choice. Let's say it goes to queen c8 to keep defending the bishop, but after queen f2, another only move, swinging the queen to this side of the board. I mean, even though black is up a full piece, but the position is just falling apart because the rook on a8, the bishop on b7 is just not helping at all. And the queen cannot move because it needs to defend the bishop, and everything is just falling apart for black. And Arjun, I think Arjun saw this, and he played the other move, which is to go f6, but now everything is falling apart after bishop g4, queen d8, rook d4, all of the best found by Aravindh, knight d3, rook f1, knight d4, knight e5, and bishop h3. Now bishop h3 is actually a slight inaccuracy, of course still winning, but you can also just go back with knight g3 and open up the rooks, open up the queens, and everything is just going into black's position. It is just falling apart. Bishop h3, king h8, d6. Let's see how Aravindh Chithambaram beautifully ended this position. Knight e7, rook g7, rook f6. The rooks, the queens, and the knights are all getting into the position. Finally here after d7, queen e3, and here another beautiful move, queen f2 here. And Arjun just resigned because at first sight, it may seem like giving up a queen. And what is this? But after knight f2, there's just d8 equals queen. And yeah, everything is just falling apart. Alright, this was an excellent game played by Aravindh Chithambaram. This game was actually in round 6, I believe. And this is like not the most crucial game. Well, actually, this is one of the most crucial games in this whole tournament for Aravindh Chithambaram because, like, in the end, he has to face Levon Aronian, and he won in the tiebreak, that is. That is actually the most crucial game, of course. But if he hadn't won this game against Arjun Erigaisi, then he wouldn't even have the chance to play against Levon Aronian in the end, in the tiebreaks in the finals. So this win is actually a very important win and a very beautiful win for Aravindh Chithambaram, and again, congratulations to him for winning the 2024 the Chennai Grandmasters. And hope you guys enjoyed this game as well as this video, and hope you learned a lot. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.